Okay, I came here to win. I'm coming for the title, yeah, this is the time. Your friends become your rivals, yeah, I've been on my grind. All I know is been survival, now it's my time to shine. I made it to the finals, I've been going hard, I ain't worried.
Thank you so much for tuning in to the Real with Ray podcast. Please like and subscribe to the channel so you can get notifications every time we release one. Please share it with a friend, sister, brother, cousin, and let's get started with this next episode. Let's go! All right, this is Real with Ray. I got my good friend Jacob Ownbey.
How we doing, guys?
Rocking it out with us today. We're just talking about all things, talking about real estate, talking about economics, the conspiracies of the world,
Yeah.
all things. And I invited my good friend here talk about my first investment property. We're kind of talking about that, kind of getting started with that. Kind of short story. I had a guy that was getting out of the market, had a property he wanted to sell. He wouldn't sell one without the other. Boy Lee wanted that property, didn't want the other one. So he's like, all right, I'll buy both of them. We'll sell this other one.
Yeah.
Spent some time there, and I thought, yeah, man, this is a good property. Worked out a deal, bought it from you, gave me some time. So grateful for that because that gave me the opportunity to be able to buy it, bought it, and then fix it up. But I always tell this story about riding around with you when we first started doing real estate together. You'd be saying, people don't understand money and, different things. And I'd be sitting there thinking like, man, I don't understand you, bro. I don't know what you're talking about. And over that time, just conversating,
Right.
learning from you about what you're already doing with real estate. And man, tell me about what it is about real estate for you.
So we're definitely going to have to go back to, my first investments, right? It was probably back when I was 19, maybe even 18 years old. Background was a little sketchier. I came from the streets, and so selling marijuana and cannabis and stuff like that was what I'd done traditionally. I'd wanted, of course, every dope boy's dream to get out is I'm gonna be a landlord. You know what I mean? I'm telling you, I'm gonna rent houses. You know what I mean?
Right.
So of course I didn't fall too far from that tree as well. So back then they had a little law that you couldn't spend over $10,000 without reporting it, right? So I mean, you can imagine the first house I got for $999. You know what I mean? It was a hole. Actually ended up gutting. It was in the middle of a hood, and probably dropped $60,000 into it. I think this house might have been worth $60,000 total when I was done.
Right.
That was the first house that I bought.
Where was it?
That was over there in Arlington.
Arlington. Okay.
So you can, that area,
Yep,
right?
yep.
You know what I'm talking about? It was. I dumped more money into it than what the house ever could have been worth if it was a mansion right there on Arlington, right?
Yep.
So that was the first one, and then after that, we bought 4 or 5 more for the same type of 99 price underneath, and there was these private brokers that would sell those to you so that you didn't have to. And we always had to go in and put money into them. And so I did that for, probably the first 4 or 5 years. And then the crash of '08 happened, right? So we're talking about early 2000s when I first started. I graduated in '01, would have graduated in '01, actually. So I went to prison what would have been my senior year for selling 35 pounds to an undercover cop. He was a good guy. He was cool. But that was the early years. And so in '08, when the crash happened, I was one of the few people that was liquid, right? And so the crash happened, and we were getting houses that were, houses that were 90, 100 grand, we were getting for 10,000.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? It was just rampant everywhere. And so, we grabbed up as many of those as we could, and of course, rented them out, fixed them up. And so that was my first real estate, putting my money into it. Not sure that I made a whole lot early on, just because I'm such a perfectionist with these things. When I get them, I want them to be top of the line, fix up everything, and it's not always the most equitable way. But I learned that early on, so that really helped me better on in my later years of investing in life, right? And so I made crazy money off those properties later on down the road. I ended up selling everything to try to invest in what I do now, which is currently the cannabis space. I own several dispensaries and cultivation centers and things like that here in Michigan now. So as kind of maturation period from, the early days to now is everything's kind of accumulated and culminated to this. And so this is my second round of going back at it and kind of getting revigorated with it. I did a lot of single unit homes. Those really wasn't the hits for me. I didn't learn till later on that multi-units was more where it was at, and it was a better investment for me and what I was doing as far as generating income. My main thing was to make money on money. Right. Somewhere to put that money to still make more money. If it's sitting in the bank and I'm getting 5% on this, $250,000. Believe me, I would give you 5% to loan me that for the same. So I just wanted to put that money back to work to make more money, and so I really rehashed that with you with that first rental property that you got, right? Because I think that was my first multi-unit. I believe.
Duplex.
Yeah. No, right. No, well, was it the duplex?
Oh, no, it was Capital Ave.
Capital Ave.
Yeah, Capital Ave.
Duplex was the second one. I lost my on that thing. It was a good investment. I got it early cheap. There was already renters in there.
If you would have kept the renters in, it would have been fine.
I had a property manager. Guy ended up being half slime ball. So, and then a couple other factors went in, and I ended up gutting this thing, and that was probably one of my bigger losses.
But live and learn.
100%. And that's the whole thing. For me, I'm still able to continue to invest in the cannabis space, so that makes up for a lot of my shortcomings on the other bad ones that I did. Had a ton of great ones though, bro. Of great ones. We've done a lot in the last 2 years. We've looked at a ton of properties and just how far it's come in just 2 years.
Fun.
Most people never get to experience that meteoric, all of a sudden you're grabbing houses.
Right.
Right. You know what I mean? It was like, dude. So yeah, it's been nothing but fun.
I love when you said it before about some people never get the experience of buying a house, or they only do it one time, and we do it all the time.
Oh my God. It's the best.
And it's so fun. Every time,
Well, it's dulling to other situations because you're constantly doing it. So it's like you get that endorphin high every time. You want to keep hitting and then it also shows you, the rise, right? You can honestly do this. You can think about it and really do it.
Absolutely.
Most people don't have that ability, or the faith in themselves, I guess, to move forward. That was the thing with you early on. It was just getting you to take that jump.
It was too.
Make that leap, bro. And when you did, it was perfect for you.
Yeah, I had to watch you do it a handful of times, and my path to it is different.
Right.
My path was, we had made a deal. It was $90,000 for that property. I gave you $10,000 down, which literally had $0 after that. My wife having cancer didn't have any money, and the lender had told me that they could get me finance for it. Me and my wife both had 800 credit ratings, all the things there, and dude led me on for about 40 days, and we had a contract that said 90 days, which. And I didn't want to let you down was part of it too.
Right.
And so when he caused, I can't do it, I was mad, but it really was such a blessing because it put my back against the wall. Thankfully, I had equity in my home, and my wife had a 401k, and my wife trusted me enough to basically give me most of her 401k, take the equity out of her home, just short. I mean, like $100 to our name after pulling that out, having the rest of the money to buy that property. But I called a lender and said, hey, if I pay cash for this property, can you loan me money on it after? Oh yeah, that'd be easier. I can loan you more money than I could for you to buy it, because I still had to come up with the down payment. Mm-hmm. And it was like that light bulb moment where I realized, okay, I pay cash, 80% of the equity, of the appraised equity that they have in the house, or the appraised value, they'll give me back. Well, it appraised at 110. And so 80% of that, it was 88,000. So I got almost the entire 90,000 back, ended up putting a lot of money into it. But then once they gave me that money back, went and bought the next property.
Yeah.
And then same thing, bought it, the BRRRR method, buy, renovate, rent, refi, rinse, repeat,
Yeah.
we just BRRRR right through it. And then, then that's how we've acquired 7 properties in really a 10-month period of time. My wife, this is how cool my wife is. And she goes, "How many houses do we have now?" She didn't even know, know. And I was like, "We just got our 7th one." And she's like, "Oh my gosh, where'd we get them all from?" I'm like, all over the place.
Way to collect them, Ray.
Right, I know exactly. And then and then the rental. And my thing was watching how you did it. You did a great job explaining it. And again, our paths are different. So I mean, you can talk about this. You know more about it, but getting lending, you're not able to get lending on houses because of the cannabis and some of the federal laws against it and state laws. But we have a strategic way we go about it is by getting land contracts,
right.
and ours aren't a I talk about this all the time when I'll call a realtor and I'll say your answer is going to be no. I already know. I got 2 questions for you. You're going to say no and no. And then I'm going to explain to you, and you might say yes. And I'll say, will you consider land contract? And they're always no. Okay, well, this is what it is. It's not your traditional land contract. Usually, we try to come 20, 25% down, and then you do a more aggressive payment plan to get it done in a year or less. And we've been able to really, do well with that.
Oh, yeah, knock them out. I mean, you've done a great job explaining that to them in order to get people on board. I mean, just makes a lot of sense, though. For us, we're cash heavy. It's a lot of, liquidity. We need to be able to put that somewhere, and then it's revolving monthly. So it's easier for us to do, a land contract as opposed to just throwing, $200,000 down. We'll give you, $100,000 down. We'll give you 10 months of 10,000. Yep. Things like that worked easier for us. But like I said, it was almost like we had to get our own lending.
Yeah.
Right. Always jealous of the fact that you were able to have 800 credit score, have great lending, a good lending team, able to really snowball that off of the way that it should have been. Right. I learned an interesting term when I came into this, I call this my third life. Right. Because, I lived this early on outlaw, crazy, this kind of life. And then, as it kind of has evolved into more of a family life and now a businessman and owning, because up until 2019, I never had any actual visible income, right? And so even with turning my life around and getting into what we're doing now, the income still isn't viewed by the federal government, so we don't get the lending, and so we come up with a lot of creative ways, and you do a great job of doing that, coming up with creative ways to get the job done. We currently have 15, 20 properties now, and this is our second stint of properties. Our goal after is always setting goals, right? 5 properties, 10 properties, and it's just whatever we can afford. Keep pressing. We hope that someday once that federal law goes, bro, we'll triple up everything, right?
Yep.
And like I said, one of those terms that I learned early on was called OPM, other people's money,
yeah.
Right? I didn't know they actually had a real term for that. Like I just thought that was stealing. You know what I mean? Like if you owe me money, please don't go invest it somewhere else. You know what I mean? Like pay me my bread.
Right.
And so really, understanding that's really commonplace and that's how it is done makes more sense to keep your own. So coming from 2 totally different sides, it's good to be able to see that, right?
Absolutely.
Because I see the work that goes in on the other side as well. And very jealous of it, but I'm sure, the grass isn't always greener on the other side. Everybody's like, oh, well, great, you own your properties. And you're like, yeah, but they're worth nothing. Yeah. You know what I mean? Nobody can give you anything except for rent.
Right.
And so, I want to keep building, though. Keep building, keep investing, keep coming up with creative ways to get more and more and more as we go. I've loved the journey all the way. Yeah. Right.
It's a blast, man. We have a lot of fun with it. Shopping around, house shopping, multi-units, and it really I remember you telling me that, because at first I was like, I want these single family homes. You're like, that's not where it's at.
Yeah.
And then now I'm like, I run the math, you run the numbers on it. Even in my way that I do it, say I buy a property for $100,000.
Right.
And then I pull out 80% of equity on it. So I can pull 80,000 out on it. Or even if it appraises for more, I've been blessed with, a few that I can pull out as much or more than what I put into it. And then say my payment's $900 a month, but it only rents for $1,200 a month. Then you got to pay taxes and insurance on top of that. So you're breaking even. Someone's paying the equity into the house for you,
right,
but there's no cash flow there. You get a duplex, triplex, quadplex, or anything bigger than that. Not only do you have cash flow, your equity being paid for, it just makes so much more sense.
Right.
But it was one of those trial and error. And then, I had the benefit and privilege of being able to watch and work the deals for you, do the mathematics on those, and then say, oh, okay, I see, how this works out, and
right.
And then and again, it's interesting how we're doing the same thing with two different paths to get there. And I tell people this all the time, when it comes to real estate, that if there's a will, there's a way,
right.
And it's a time thing, even if you're not able to get, if you're not bankable. Building your credit up just takes a little bit of time, and then you become bankable. Or leveraging, if you have a home already, using that leverage in that home to investment properties. And the first time I did it, I had a couple guys working with me, helping me fix it up. And I had left the bank. I had that check that I got the money back in which I had put into that. And the guys were like, wait, you just got all the money back? And at that time I already had one renter and a second person moving in. So I'm making $1,000 a month off this property. And the payment's being paid, and I'm getting the money back to do it. And they said, why aren't more people doing this? Why isn't everybody doing this? Everyone can.
Right.
They're scared.
Yeah.
I was scared,
Man.
And then, but it took, getting into real estate as a realtor to become the investor. And then also, again, I always give you all the credit for it. Because for one, you gave me the opportunity to buy that property. And then two, watching it, be done over and over,
I definitely appreciate it. I mean, you worked hard. How long has it been now?
It's been a year and a month since we started working. Or actually, it'll be 1 year in October since we first started working together.
So you built up 7 homes in a year already?
So we closed on that in December. So I've gotten 7 properties in less than a year.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
That's quite a ride. Do you have a goal on where you want to end up at, or
5 was my goal for the year?
Right.
And then when I hit 5, I realized that I could do more.
Right.
So then it was 10, and then now I'm like 15. And initially my goal was, I saw a podcast. My goal was to have one house for each of my kids. And that, to be honest with you, I got nothing. My first daughter was born, opened up a Panda account. Every time I got paid, I put a couple $100 in there. That was, I'm gonna give her college education. I'm gonna put all this money in there. Had my second kid open up the account, never put any money in there. My third kid didn't even get an account, made for her, And so there's like nothing
she gets
safe.
the hand-me-down.
Exactly. I got a life insurance policy, so it's like, that's about their only chance. Anything. Well, then I was actually watching a podcast that really changed my life, and he was talking about how he had bought this triplex for his daughter, and at 18 years old, it'd be paid off. He'd give her that. She could either sell it, pay for her college, pay for a car, pay for a vacation, have some money left over, rent it out, always have income, live there, and rent it out so she could live rent free. It really made something click in my head, and I thought, I want to have three properties, one for each of my girls. And that's their investment, and someone else paying for it the whole time. So I never have to come out of pocket for it.
Right.
And if I'm renting it out, the tenant's paying for that, building that equity for them, and then they have that. So that was what it started as, was one property per kid, and then now it's 5 per kid. Because I'm like, well, if they sold each property $200, that's $1 million right there. Which,
Right.
The value of the dollar going down, that's not a ton, but it's more than I was left with, it's more than I ever thought I could leave them with.
Right.
And I can do it in a way that I'm not just, I had, when you would talk about money, I truly didn't understand. I really thought a savings account was the way to go. And,
Right.
and, I would take 5 or 10% of everything I made and put it into the bank for a savings account. And then now it's like, no, everything I have, I put into these investments.
For sure.
And the
Make you
equity,
more.
it makes me so much more. And I'm truly not going out of pocket. And the strategy in which I have, I'm able to accumulate much quicker, you know. And the only goal that I haven't hit this year is I wanted one out of state property. Right. I really like Texas. I really like Florida, just a place I can take the family to get away. And ideally, I'd like to have a duplex or triplex and rent 1 or 2 units out, have the other one as Airbnb, but we can, you know, 3 weeks out of the year, 4 weeks out of the year,
yes.
we go travel to, write off, you know, I'm going to check on my property, I can write it off, be able to travel, you know, have a spot that's a destination that we want to be at. Right. That's the only thing I haven't accomplished yet. But I also didn't think I was going to acquire so many properties here at home, and I'm having so much fun with it. And just, it's like one of those things, once the train got rolling, it's just now it's full speed ahead, you know, and there's opportunities coming up. And so I haven't been able to stop yet, you know.
Always keep growing. So how long have you done real estate for?
So been licensed for a little over 3 years.
So it's been 3 years now.
But really been active in it for just over a year.
Just a year.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
My wife got sick with leukemia, and right before I got licensed, you know, life kind of just stopped. You know, it's like it was like our second COVID. You know, where taking care of the kids, doing all that, and then coming out of that, you know, we started working together on some different stuff, doing some marketing for your business for you, and then. You know, you called me up one day. It was like that fateful day that Lee calls. You know? Lee calls and says, "Hey, bro, can you take me to see like these 3 houses or whatever, 4 houses, 4 properties, whatever?" And I'm like, "Yeah, no problem." We go and check them out, and you're like, "Yeah, I'm looking for this property. You know, I'm looking for some multi-units." And I was like, that week, I run into a guy who used to be my neighbor, who's like, "Hey, I'm trying to sell some properties. I got some multi-units." And I'm like, "Oh. I know a guy is looking for some," and that's how it kind of came about. And you know, and then we started with those properties, and then I don't even know how many transactions we've done. I'd have to look back, but I mean, we've probably done we've sold probably close to probably 10 properties. We did a bundle of like 6 properties, and then bought and sold that apartment with mine, and then acquired. Handful. I mean, we've probably done 20 transactions together at this point now in a year.
Oh, for sure.
In a year. I mean, it's crazy.
Really, really disappointed about that 40 unit complex.
We're still working on it though. Still working on it. And that's what I was gonna ask you. What's your next goal? What's the next goal?
Yeah, so those are mine, right? Mine is like trying to say I have something that's going to be life changing for my family, right? More than what we already have. Something long term, something that takes care of itself, something that brings in, a substantial amount, $250,000, $500,000 a year, and that we can have it for 3 generations.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like that's what we're looking for. I think at this point, right? I think everything has built up to that. That's the peak, right? It's like we started with the single family homes, realized that wasn't it, right? Moved on to a duplex. Well, they make bigger, right? You know what I mean? And so in your mind, you kept, you were just expanding. You were just trying to go bigger, right? And so I think we're to the point now where you got to be, as big as you can, something large. And so that's my goal, right? Is like something more. Just something bigger, and then of course roll that into as big as possible. Dream, right? Truly Absolutely. Dream. I mean, I every time I drive by something, I think I could do that, right? I could do that, right? Drive by and I'm counting how many apartments do you think are in Fairlane? You know what I mean? Like you're like, dude, there's 500. You're doing the math. They're going to $1,000 each. It's $500,000, and then you start running down. How much do you think they're probably paying? Probably cost them $250,000 a month to run it, right?
Right.
So they're still raking $250,000. They're still talking about $3.5 million a year profit, and you ain't left the couch.
Yeah.
That's the ultimate goal. That's the ultimate dream. And for me, I think anyway, I'm starting from the humble beginnings, to where we are now, and so I think that's it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, once I do that, I feel like I can breathe happy. For me, as you know, but a disabled daughter a few years ago changed my life. When you thought about having to take care of a person for their entirety, right? And then even after you're gone and you're past, you worry about your children. But you always think that you can get them to a capable age to take care of themselves, or you can teach them to take care You know, I had a daughter with Angelman, so that'll never be the possibility, right? And she'll always need somebody or healthcare or this and being, you know, from the streets and, you know, that little bit of money of what I thought was a lot of money. You know, I sat down with my kid's mother at that time, talked with some financial experts and everybody says, hey man, we're gonna need, you know, $8 to $10 million for her lifetime. Right? And you're like, man, I'm worth $300. You know what I mean?
New goals.
You know, right? And so you have to set a new goal, right? And so for me, it was like, I sat down and was like, man, what could I do? What could I do? What could I do that could make that, you know, that amount of money and make that possible for her? Because that's really all that drove me. I don't think that I ever wanted it that bad for myself.
Yeah.
I always say that, man. I was so content with playing Madden and answering the door in my underwear. Like, bro, you know what I mean? Like, seriously, you want to stay and smoke a bowl? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I didn't know that I was already living the dream and the life, you know, and that there were responsibilities to come. And so that's what ultimately drove me to real estate, to, you know, the marijuana industry, toward making and building more, because for me the marijuana and the real estate went hand in hand. Yeah. To me, with every building I bought to put a new marijuana shop, it was a real estate investment. It was so I worried about location, I worried about who I was there. You know, I worried about long term and how much it'd be worth later on. And still, even when pot's gone and all this, you'll still have property. Right. It's the old McDonald's thing. You know what I mean? You'll own 1 million properties, and so that kind of went hand in hand. But everything that I do is trickle down to her. So I just want to continue to build as much as I can to ensure the stability of the family from beyond the grave. Yeah. That's the ultimate goal for me. Is like I still want to take care of you when I'm gone. Like, I have to. I need to do that. And so this is the fastest, quickest, best way to do that. Right. Absolutely. And so I engage and run at it daily like a madman. Like, every single day I wake up, I'm calling you just to see how you feel. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, like, you got anything going on, Ray? Yeah. You know what I mean? And that's important to me, because, like I said, every deal, I mean, you're always been there for me. So you know, it's been even with just working with you the last couple of years, it's been a great ride. Nothing but great things, and I mean, people are very, very lucky to ever have you. I don't care if it's a father, as a person, as a friend, as a real estate, you know, investor, as a realtor. You know what I mean? Everybody's lucky, bro. So
same about you. I mean, I've seen working with you, you know, I think of one of the guys that was able to buy a house. You know, had a real rough ride. You know, had spent time in prison, and you know, we both grew up with him, and I was able to be his realtor to buy a home that he never thought he'd be a homeowner, you know, and you giving him the opportunity there, and people that wouldn't normally get the opportunity. And then, you know, for me too, you know, I'd say, I tell people all the time, I mean, really, you know, how did you start, you know, selling so many houses so fast? I mean, you put me on with, like, you know, investing in those properties, and, you know, it was a hard time for both of us at the same time, you know, where, you know, you got sued, you know, and
horribly
got taken, you know, hard on that one, you know, but you survived it. And one thing I always say that I always loved about you, from the moment we met at the Y Center 20 years ago or so, 20 years ago, you know, when I met my boy Lee there, we were hooping together, you know, didn't really know you from anything else, started hooping together there, working out, lifting. And anytime I've ever known you, anytime you said you're going to do something, you did it, you know, you know, whatever it was, you know, and I sold you a golf cart. Hadn't talked to you in years. We're looking for a golf cart to drive your daughter around the neighborhood. Yeah. And I came over, and you're like, yeah, man, I'm gonna open this. I'm gonna open this dispensary. I'm gonna change the game with it. I mean, I remember this vividly. And I, you know, and it was funny because I'd heard other people saying that. This is right before pot was legalized in marijuana, and everyone was trying to rush to that, you know, and then like I believed you. You know what I mean? I thought, if anyone's going to really do it, it's you, you know. And it was back in the day when we were lifting weights. You were at that time, again, with real estate. I remember you telling me, I'm gonna buy this house, and I believe you had like veterans or someone living there. And we went to this huge house like in Harbor Creek, And you had it all set up, and I remember like a guy coming knocking on the door, bumming a cigarette or something. You know? I was like, he really does have this going on.
I tried everything.
Yeah,
like,
man.
When I tell you I tried everything, dude, listen, every bad idea, 100%. Everything happens for a reason. Yeah, that was a low time after that lawsuit. I lost a little over 11 million. Yeah. And that was pretty much every dollar I had to my name and my kids' names and my business and everything. So it was like I was almost to the end, and you came through for me, at that point in time, which was a pretty low point in my life, and like I said, really helped me build back up out of that. And that's what this did for me, right? It really pulled me back and refocused me, and I got everything back tenfold. From that, but it's just waking up in the morning and always putting the boots back on, right? Just always just trying. I mean, everybody has trials and tribulations. For me, I always look at things like it has to be done. Like autism runs in my family. I have 2 autistic sons. My father was autistic. I didn't know he was autistic. We back then, they didn't know what they was. They were just like, this guy's crazy, right? You know what I mean? It's funny. I used to tell people we grew up so poor, and my father couldn't have a job. He couldn't do anything, and he just got a little check and stuff. So I used to steal when I was a kid, like just go to gas stations and stuff and steal. And so somehow, I don't even know how these people, after they catch me, they would call my parents. You know what I mean? So we called your parents, your dad's coming to get you. I'm like, this ain't gonna end well. You know what I mean? Here comes dad riding around the corner on a bike because they don't give him a license. You know what I mean? You're like, here he comes. You know what I mean? The guy's like staring at him, I'm staring at him. Is that what you thought it was? You know what I mean? Like, yeah, so. But that autistic, that autistic focus, that ability to hyper focus on things. Really, I think gave me the ability to see things through, right? I still don't ever like to go on vacations. I don't go anywhere. Every day is a grind for me. It has to be a workaholic, they say, but really just driven, just constantly. And like I said, that's that same poking and prodding of trying to blast through, right?
Absolutely.
And that's what I believe in every real estate venture that we get. There's an ability to knock this one out of the park, right?
Definitely.
That's that feeling you get, that same feeling every single day. That's the one, right? And that, it's hard to keep getting that high. So you get a little bit higher every time, right?
Yep. And it's amazing. I mean, doing so many deals with you, it's, you do math so fast in your head, like, I mean, like seriously, like, you'll run numbers, it's funny because, you're talking about, you don't have to go graduate and go to college or go to, even graduate high school, but, the numbers game, the mathematics of things, I mean, the way you run numbers, and the way you crunch numbers, and you truly see things different than other people. You see people different. You see business opportunities different, I mean, in the amount of time, just in the year and a half, or the time, that you've been, really making it with your businesses, how many people have approached you with business ideas?
Yeah.
You run the numbers. I mean, I'll pitch stuff to you or say, or you'll be telling me about it. Somebody came with this deal and you're like, and then you're like, yeah, there's zero money being made.
Yeah. Having owned big businesses and understanding, what it is to take in money and stuff like that. I think everywhere you go, you're monitoring whether or not this is a successful business, right? Yeah. Like when I walk in the door, I'm this place isn't making good. I went and had a meal at Turkeyville the other day, right? It was like a Tuesday, and there's like 50 people working at Turkeyville, and it's me. You know what I mean? I'm like, Tuesdays we should probably shut down over here. You know what I mean? Like, thinking about the restaurant stuff. But yeah, I mean, it's just your brain never stops, and that's good because money never sleeps.
Right.
So it kind of goes hand in hand, correlation. There's always some money to be made.
That's true. I'll text you sometimes. I get up early to work out. I hit you at 4:30 in the morning. Answer right back.
Yeah, no, I'm up, bro. I'm up scouring the world for something. Right?
Absolutely. Let me ask you this. So this one thing I found, especially since we started working together, but we drive down Columbia Ave here in Battle Creek. we're hoping somebody's watching this not in Battle Creek, but drive down Battle Creek, Columbia Ave. One day, me and my wife were driving. There's I don't even know how many mile straight shot down Columbia Ave, Michigan Ave, 14 or 16 dispensaries, and there's only one with cars in the parking lot. And we'll drive by another one where it looks like, and you're like, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of those are the workers, and one of those guys is security.
Right.
And it looks like it's full, but really your parking lot is always full.
Right.
And then there's so many that either just don't even open, or you're not even sure if they're open because there's no cars there. What sets your business model apart? Why is it that yours is so successful?
Well, I like to tell people, first of all, we're the last cowboys that actually sell weed, right? You know what I mean? You buy a product, you get it. A lot of these other places are corporations. They're investor ran. Somebody gave money to them out of Maryland somewhere where it's not legal because you showed them a picture of a pot farm. Like their money comes different, so they don't need those people in the parking lot. We do, So it starts with that. But also, I'm a pot guy, man. The palate, the taste, the flavor. What people want, right? You ever been to a wine tasting before? You ever went in there? You ever seen some of those wine tasting guys? This guy takes a splash, splashes around in his mouth, and that was raised on oak wood. Yeah. You're like, what? You know what I mean? Like, oh, this got a hint of berry and a hint of. I'm like, I don't know what the hell is going on here, man. This tastes like wine to me.
Right.
Same kind of thing I would think in the marijuana industry. There's somebody out there who's been smoking for 1 million years who does, and understands. And so that, I believe the palate's different, right? I believe I know what the customer wants. And then also, like I said, I'll tell you what, I wouldn't have 20, 30 years on the job, roofing somewhere, right? And then here comes this guy off the street who was selling cars last year, who's like, dude, I can roof better than you. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, nobody roofs better than me. You're like, dude, what do you got? Like 3 generations of experience? No, I started yesterday. Right. You almost expect it to be a commercial. Like, but I did sleep at a Holiday Inn Express last night.
Exactly.
That kind of thing. So it's just staying in your lane, right? This is what I do. This is what I know. I'm going to dominate and like I said, I don't run from competition. We welcome it. I wrote the laws here so that everybody could get in, and I also wrote the laws so I didn't write myself out. But believe me, so I was the very first one. I don't think that I would have made it if I wasn't, right? There was huge money behind me. There was a lot of people coming behind me. And so for me, I was able to capture market share early, right? So I was one of the first, one of the grandfathers. So I was able to get in everybody's first, right? And so that helped in our success too. So I want to say early on as well. But like I said, people know good weed. They know good prices. We don't need the prices that everybody else has either. This is the most money I've ever made in my life. Right. Like I told you, I was used to making $3. Now all of a sudden they're like, here's $1 million. I'm like, wow, that's different. Yeah. While everybody else needs, I'll take that. Listen, we'll be the last one standing because I promise you, I can't wait till it becomes like how it was in the street. I made 5%. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like we're used to living off nothing, man. And so the main thing is keep good jobs for good people. And that's where, a lot of clients and stuff who work for me, I always refer them to you, taking great care of them. Some of the guys, just like you said, the story about the guy who was in prison. One of my good friends growing up, we sold a lot of weed and stuff together. Unfortunate event. He went to prison for 10 years for something he wasn't accused. He was accused of that he didn't do. Yeah. They'd honestly sentenced him to life. It took him 10 years to get it back, and then they gave him back, and now he's out. So when he came home, he had no skills or nothing. I wanted to offer him a job that paid well. Wanted to offer him an opportunity to take care of himself, right? And so that's kind of what you were going into with the model of how people work for us, and we kind of we give people opportunities who wouldn't otherwise have them. Absolutely. Right? I have some of these people running. We do $170 million a year, right? As a company and a corporation, and some of these people who are in prominent positions, making $150,000 a year. Never graduated high school, So some of these guys just knew how to work scales. You know what I mean? So really opened them up and given them an opportunity, and some of them took it and really ran with it, right? Thrived with it. grew, and then of course bought houses from you. And so that's the other thing, is just trying to cultivate those people, cultivate those. And a lot of them were friends and people that I grew up with from the early days. All I needed was a shot too. That's how I felt, always. And just like you said, it's funny, in my life, people are like, man, they're crazy that, you're able to do this and you're rich now and all this kind of things. And the thing was, in my life, I never thought I wasn't.
Right.
That's the craziest thing about it. Like, people are like, oh, congratulations. I went, on what? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, we're just trying to be more successful. We're just trying to give and get and take care of people. I've always said this, and this is my main thing, man. You can't do it just for yourself.
Yeah.
You got to do it for others. Yeah. And that'll really drive you to do more, to push and go as far as you can. Because that's probably, whether it's in real estate, life, work, school, whatever it is, you just got to, I always tell my employees this: you don't have to be great. You got to be better than the person next to you.
Right.
That's important. You got to always outwork the person next to you, because that's how life's going to be, right? It's going to get harder in the future. It's not going to get easier.
That's always been my biggest motivator. When I became a personal trainer, I wanted to do it. I was a trainer that was working at this gym that I was at, and I was like, man, this guy is really terrible, but he's still getting clients. I know I can do a better job than that. and so that motivated me, where I was like, I'm not sure about it.
Who was it?
It was your boy. I was like, if he can do it and make money, and he's not very good at this,
right,
then I know that I can do it. And same thing with real estate. And it actually took some years. And I always say it's always on God's timing. I had actually looked into it. I didn't know where to get started with it, how, and I had a good gig doing personal training. I mean, my own schedule. My kids would go to the gym with me. It was a healthy lifestyle. I had a great life doing it. But what happened was, when my wife got sick, I worked under a gym brand, and if I wasn't working, I didn't get paid. And so when she got sick and we couldn't really work for over a year and a half, and same thing with her, she worked for the federal government,
right?
And there was no short-term or long-term disability, and it was like, what? I just assumed there always was, and then so our income was nothing for about a year. She got Social Security disability, but other than that, no income coming in. And my thing was, never again. I want to do something that can't be taken from us, that I don't have to be working. That's going to bring in money. That's where the investment properties come in.
Yes.
And then also building the equity in them. And so that was kind of my driving force. And then, and I always say this too, I tried some different jobs. My favorite story is, I thought that I wanted to work in the school. So I love kids. I loved coaching. I've had some experience doing that. And there was an opportunity to work in a school, maybe like athletic director type role, weightlifting teacher, things like that. Like, man, that sounds great. I'll go to school with my kids and, working in the school system. And thank God that I got asked to do a week-long sub. I was going to sub from Monday to Friday. And Monday, I was like, Mr. Yeager, that was cool and fun. And I'm all hyped with the kids. And by Thursday, I was not fun anymore.
No.
And I felt like I was in jail from 7:30 to 3.
Oh, wow.
I'd get out of school and I'd be like, there's no time to, everything's closing in an hour or 2 hours. I can't get anything done in my life, where I was used to, I realized I'm not fit for that mold,
Right.
And a lot of ways too, so real estate was the mold I fit in.
Yeah.
And a lot of the people that you've helped, they didn't fit the mold of other places.
For sure.
But they fit a mold that's in your business model, that helps you be more successful, helps them be successful. And it's really an amazing thing to witness, and good people. For me, I think that, I personally don't smoke, and
I need to smoke now.
He asked me before, like, hey, can we smoke in the bar? I was like, oh, my wife might not let me, just smoke on the way here. But for me, it's an ambition thing. It takes my ambition. It affects everyone differently, I think.
Sure.
And for me, clear-minded is the best for me. But the thing is, I also think it gets a bad rap because, the stereotypical stoner or person that smokes or works in dispensary, being in me as a non-smoking person, but my relationship with you, my friendship with you, being in your stores, the workers there, I mean, they're smart, intelligent, driven people. Some of them work in there and don't smoke or sparingly or whatever, but have the knowledge or wisdom and have different skill sets that again, might not be utilized in another profession, you know, and it's really interesting to see. So it's a different industry than what people truly think, you know,
Right.
and it's amazing too when you go other places and you're from Michigan. Oh, what's it like there? You know, and it's different because
right.
I don't, how many, do you know how many off the top of your head, how many states are legalized in the United States? Out of
I
50?
think 38 states, I believe.
Oh, really? That many now?
And
Okay.
not in some variation of legalization, right?
Okay.
You know, and some people are
Medical.
on and so on and so forth. So I mean, I think eventually it'll be everywhere, right?
Yeah.
And no, the stigmata is there. It'll always be there. It's not for everybody. You know, neither is having a drink every night.
Right.
Neither is, you know, tobacco. I guess I really didn't believe in the actual medical marijuana, like the medicinal, until I actually got into selling them. Even though I sold the idea, I never actually thought it was real. Right.
That's interesting.
Because for me, I you know, I was smoking, you know, for a lifetime. And I just like to get high. You know what I mean? Like I didn't have like, oh geez, my back hurts.
Right.
Like no, I was like, dude, I just enjoyed getting blowed. Thanks for asking. You know? And so, but like I said, while I sold the idea, I never truly believed in it until actually I started selling on a large level. And when I say large level, when I started on a large scale to the public, right? Once I started seeing them, people actually lived by it. People actually believed in it. You know, I heard cancer patients say they could live longer. You know, I heard people say that it helped with their appetite when they couldn't eat. I have people flying from Florida who have cancer who come there just to get, you know, their and you know, it's got to speak some sort of testament to what it is. So I mean, I do believe in the medicinal effects now of what it does in helping. But once again, like I said, I mean, I'm socially awkward sometimes. You know, so it takes the edge off. I'm super high strung, like bro, I'm super intense. If I'm not high, I'm probably so intense it's not like relax guy. You know what I mean? Chill out. So you know, whatever the reason is or whatever people do, you know, I'm fine with it. I'm happy. I'm just happy to be here.
Oh yeah.
Right. That's the difference between I think me and probably most other people. I'm just happy to be here and then happy to give back. That's the big thing. Give back the opportunity that was given to me, or give back, you know, the chance, and we'll give back to even the community. You know, we do a ton of stuff with that. Little league baseball teams. We're paying for Battle Creek Central's cheerleaders this year. We just try to be there for anybody, especially within the city, right? Because we've taken a lot from it. I'm not naive to the fact that because I own the dispensary, that I've destroyed a secondary market that was available to people for 100 years.
Right.
Right. I think people oftentimes forget about that. That you know, it used to be, you know, if a guy was a barber, he might have bought a quarter pound a week to sell $10 blunts to his customers. You know what I mean? If a guy worked at a factory, he might have bought, you know, to sell to cover his child support. You know, it was a secondary illicit market that I destroyed single-handedly, and took that straight from a lot of people. So we understand we're not naive to what we did in that aspect. So we try to give back as much as possible and try to really be there.
Which is interesting. I mean, I think that's, I think that is partly what sets you apart from, again, the dispensaries that are in town or wherever, because most of them aren't thinking that way.
Right.
Don't even know that that's the ripple effect that took place.
Well, they were never
you know?
part of that. They were never
right.
You're right. They never saw that.
Suits and tie guys is how you say it sometimes.
For sure.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, they were oblivious to it. You know,
Right.
and so yeah, it just destroyed a lot of communities. You know, take money away from communities that didn't have the money anyway for you to take away from them. For a million years, it was just there was an illicit market that everybody knew existed. You know, prices were universal. People knew what they made. Everybody made a couple extra dollars. You know. Oh. And so yeah, that's pretty gone now. You know what I mean? You can just go down the street, check out GLH, 140 flavors, whatever price you want. You know, we have $10 ounces.
It's crazy.
Anything for anybody. So
yeah. What's the next? What's your 1 year, 5 year, 10 year? What are you looking towards there? Or are you like day to day, month to month, week to week? Where
I'll
are you
be
at?
honest with you. I mean, how creative can you become, right?
Yeah.
Because I believe, you know, if you're looking at the real estate market right now, you know, the commercial real estate market is collapsing. If it's not already like worth nothing right now, dusting up, right? And so as that continues to affect a lot of the markets and stuff like that, it's going to affect the housing market. Single family homes and things like that are going to come crashing as well. I'm not sure that this is the last box store that there'll ever be, right?
Yeah.
And when I say box store, you're not going into Sears anymore.
Right.
You know what I mean? You're not walking into a lot of places anymore. Everybody's online and everything. Everything's coming online. Everything's direct. Everything's straight to the home. And how long until that's the case with your marijuana as well?
Oh.
And I think as we continue to, people become more accustomed and grow to the idea that this is a one-trick pony. You know what I mean? Like right now, I think early on, and you get this in new states too, is that everybody gets so enamored with the glitz and the glam and going into it, in this, that we forget that it's just a commodity, right? And so the more that something is readily available, the less it's worth. And so as it becomes more and more prevalent in other states and things like that, we're going to see the price come, crashing down. So how low, how fast. What is I can tell you my next move is probably going to be to go straight from distribution to the home buyer, or excuse me, straight to the home customer, right? Cutting out the dispensary completely. And I think that you have to do that, because inevitably, like I said, as people become more accustomed to brands, people become more accustomed to what, guess what, man, I'll just order, I'll take 3 ounces of this, I'll take 3 of these gummies and 2 of those, and then you can set up a delivery at noon today.
Yeah.
I think that's inevitably where it's at. People aren't going to need box stores to run into. So I'm looking at, I think personally, 5 years, maybe 4 or 5 years on the box store front, before that's not a thing anymore. And so that's another reason why I'm invested heavy in going hard back into real estate and trying to get things going, is to make sure that there's something long term after that, right? To ensure that there's something, because like I said, we got to keep going regardless, whatever it is. If it just happened to be pot, because I think that we have the formula for success. I was sitting with my son and Bob Evans the other day. He's 25 years old. And I'm sitting there, and man, somebody comes to the table, it takes a couple minutes, take it forever. There's a lot of people in here, but it's it's hectic. But these workers aren't efficient. You know what I mean? I'm just sitting here thinking in my head, man, we could turn and burn so many more tables than them. Yeah. You know what I mean? We could take the strategy that we have and implement it anywhere, and I think it would equal success. Just what it is, right? And yeah, it's funny. I'm like, you could do better than that, Bob Evans, buddy. You can do better than whoever this is, right?
Isn't that interesting, that just having what you do, going into other businesses and seeing those models, where they're lacking and what can be
for sure
made different with them. But it doesn't surprise me one bit, because I know that's how your brain operates. Right. It's a funny thing when I remember when I was talking with another person who's in the industry, and I was talking, and I'd asked them, what's your opinion? Why do you think GLH has all of the cars in the parking lot and these other places don't, and they're closing down and all these things? And he said, basically talking about you, he goes, your model was different than everyone else's, and everyone in the industry knows your name. Even if they don't know you, they know your name in the industry because of what you did, pioneered it in a way that, basically set the tone for what was to come, always ahead of it. I'd say you're always a forward thinker of any of my friends, any of my clients. You have such a forward thinking state of mind.
I appreciate that. Learning is everything too. I've learned from other businesses as well. I don't want to think that I didn't have. Listen, I make sure, and you'll notice that every single GLH is within an eye shot of a Dollar General.
Yep.
You know what I mean? I really tried to think about, the McDonald's theory, Burger King right across the street type thing. I felt like our demographic of people were almost identical. Right, and I mean, you ever sat outside of a Dollar General? That thing is booming.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. They're scrapping, bro. Like, wow. Like, and there's only one person in there. You know what I mean? Like, dude, they're making money, and there's one person running it. So while I'm not sure that's as effective as it should be, either, the idea about the premise behind it was smart. But that was our demographic of people. We felt like they already did the work.
Right.
So, I mean, I'll set up right across the street from them. So we learned from them too. Like, it was like, you know, they got this caution yellow. I wanted to make sure I had my caution green.
Right.
So when you drive by them, you're like, oh, they're, you know, the same kind of thing. You know, we learn from others as well. And demographic played a huge part. You know, I would early on, people would be like, hey man, you wanna get this dispensary in Grand Blanc? I'm like, absolutely not. Like, man, you know how many rich people smoke weed, bro? Not enough.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Last time I hung out with Susie, she hit my joint once and was acting loopy. Like, that's not gonna work, bro. Like, this is, you know, demographics. I need to take me to the hood. You know what I mean? Like, straight up where I can sell it. You know,
And they want the experience. Yeah, I mean, you've
Correct.
talked about that before. You know, if they come from a different background, they're looking for that experience.
For sure.
Where in GLH, you might not get.
Oh, there's no experience, bro. Like, there's none. It's just hurry up and get your get out. You know, early on, you know, a lot of the lessons that these people had to learn corporately or doing, they had to learn as they went in the legal world, right?
Yeah.
I'd already learned early on, man. These people just want to get their weed and get the on. They don't even really want to know you, right? You know, I remember all the time, everybody who ever came by and bought a bag of weed from me, I'd be like, hey, you want to smoke? You know what I mean? Because everybody'd be like, no, I got granny's this to go to, you know, I got a graduation. Everybody had a reason. Everybody just wanted to get their bag and go. So we made sure that I made it as efficient as possible in that capacity where you could just get in and get out. Very little, you know. I also looked at places like Walmart. Like, man, like, think about Walmart. Who is pitching you your Cheerios in Walmart?
Yeah.
Like, there's not a guy down the Cheerio aisles like, dude, these Cheerios are the ones. You know what I mean? These are the ones. You know what I mean? No, absolutely not. There's a wall here for you to pick from, you know, of 100 different cereals, and you just quietly pick one and go on about your day.
Yeah.
You know, and so that was the same thing that we set up in early on in the game. Now you're seeing a lot of people catching on to that.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of these places are, oh yeah, we can't have we need to have a fast lane. Things need to go quicker. You know, it's not a one-on-one experience. And we're starting to sell it more and more. It's why I always say we're starting to sell it more and more like produce. You know, you cannot sell anything in a bag. You're selling it in bulk, getting put in a bag, and then you're buying it on the way out the door. Almost like you would a tomato or a carrot or anything. And and I think that's where it's going inevitably as the price slides anyway. You won't need as much people overlooking something that's worth 33 cents a gram, you know, something like that.
That's interesting because you're right. Because I mean, when you go into you think of McDonald's. I worked at McDonald's back in the day, you know, in high school, and it was like there was a timer.
Yes.
You know, and you were always trying to get your efficiency down and how fast, you know, per person, how much each order was per that time. You know, it wasn't about, you know, how many smiles did you get or how happy, you know, you want the customer to be happy because they're getting what they're ordering, but it was how fast they'd come in, order what they wanted, you provided with them, and they drove off.
That's why McDonald's won early. They won early because they understood efficiency. They understood, capacity. They understood movement, right? You know, they understood what it took to make millions of dollars, right? So that's what I knew early on too. When I bought a building with a huge parking lot, with a giant amount of space, with a lot of, you know, I knew what it was going to take to reel in those people. You're going to have to move people, right? I mean, think about, listen, making $1 million, man, is roughly about like, so it's about 10,000 people a week.
Wow.
You know what I mean?
A lot of people.
Like, you're thinking about, dude, that's 10. Wow. You know, most businesses are happy if they see 100 people a week.
Yeah.
You know, so you got to have the capacity and capability. I would love to go through McDonald's and see. You know, I never worked anywhere. You know, like, I think I was on parole. They made me trim like at a cemetery one time. I was supposed to be. They caught me behind the mausoleum shooting quarters off the wall. You know what I'm saying? You're out of here. Yeah, probably. But yeah, so no, I mean, I would love to be able to take a look at some of those and some of those other plants and stuff like that. I mean, that's what they thrive on, is efficiency.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, if you're efficient, you can run anything. That's what it is.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, I don't know. What else you want to talk about?
Bro, I got so much I can reel off, but it has nothing to do with
Yeah.
like, dude, I got a ton of jokes I can tell you about my Thursday night.
Yeah, let me hear about it.
Oh, you don't want to hear about it, bro. It's like one of those casino nights or something. We start, you know, Frank wants to go out to the casino, have a couple of drinks on his way home. I had my bookie meet me out there. He owed me like $15,000, so I was like meeting him out here. So I had a couple drinks. Of course, I'm an alcoholic, so as soon as I have a couple drinks, it's like it's coming off everything, right? The top's coming off. First thing I do, dude, is I put my card of free points. I'm waiting on somebody to get here, bring me some money. I put my card, I got free points into the slot machine, wins $5,000, right? Instantly. So I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool. $5,000 off nothing.
Right.
You know what I mean? That was pretty awesome. I took that, went and put it on the under of the Thursday night football game, right? 5,000. They hit, right? So now I'm up 10,000. You know what I mean? So I'm just over here reeling, bro. They give me a free room over here at the casino, and I get free drinks. So they bring me 1,000,000 free shots. So we're just over here. It's me, and a couple other people. We're just shooting to death, bro. Freaking, like, bro, we're just in this thing going crazy. I'm like, man, I'm going back downstairs. I'm playing some more. I'm shooting dice. I get down here, start shooting dice, man. It's going crazy. We're winning tons and tons of money, bro. I think I won like 40 grand. Man. Okay, I'm so lit. There's so many freaking drinks lined up across the bar, just all shots of Louis XIII. Just $1,000 a shot. There's probably 50 of them lined up. I'm drunker than the crowd's going wild. Everybody's. At one point in time, 3 women were twerking behind me, and I was throwing dollar bills on them. Like the turn at the one point. Listen to me. Like 2:30 in the morning, the pit boss finally comes over. He's like, "Bro, you gotta go." You know what I mean? Like you done tore the club up. Like this was lit. I'm like, "Listen, man, I understand completely. I gotta get up out of here. Can I finish my drink?"
Yeah.
He says, "Absolutely, but you can't finish those other 16 you got lined up over there." He says, "You can grab one of those." You know what I mean? I was like, "Oh, that sounds about right." You know what I mean? So it was a good night, man. It just, wonderful time. Just kept going,
That Thursday night.
Dude, random Thursday. I must have drank 3/5. I was crunk yesterday. I couldn't even do nothing, dude.
Still going.
You saw me in the vet. The vet's dirty, completely dirty. I literally had to jump it in the parking lot. Like I had to jump the Corvette because somebody left the lights on all night. Like, you know what I'm saying? Got a brand new 2024 Corvette, and they want to bump. I'm jumping it. I'm like, hey, don't let anybody park there. I gotta get it. Yeah, wild.
It was fun. I was dying laughing because you drove by me and then I caught back up with you. And I was like, yo, you're like, the thumbs up. No.
I was still drunk, bro. Like still, I couldn't see anything. I'm just trying to get this sucker home.
Right,
you know
right.
I mean? Like,
it was raining, it was sprinkling, and the top was off.
Top's off, yeah.
It was too.
Oh, man, didn't want to use any power, bro. Like, things use so much power even to put the roof up.
Oh, that's
it's just going to rain on me on the way home. Forget
that's
it.
funny.
Yeah, that's just Thursday night.
That's Thursday night.
That's Thursday night. So, yeah, bro. Man, let me know.
Yeah, living the best life.
Oh, dude, I got tons, man.
Yeah. No, and so I always every time we talk, it's always positivity. That's what I love about you too. It's you have a lot on your shoulders, a lot of people that rely on you,
for sure.
but take it all in stride and really always have that joy, about you, which I love that, and always having fun. We get laughing, You always tell me I have the worst stories ever. So
dude, listen, if you don't give them some, dude, listen, this real estate one's good, but we got to give us a kind of a real one, because you could tell the old woodchuck story and defy odds with that. Like did he ever tell you about that?
I'll tell you guys about the woodchuck story.
Gosh, bro.
So I just bought this property and got it from this old school guy.
This is the worst story ever.
It's a pretty terrible story. So I just buy this property. I'm probably animal rights activists are going to definitely if we ever go public with this.
You're cut.
We're going to be canceled before we even get started.
For sure.
But so he tells me, there's this woodchuck getting underneath this deck. You're going to have to get it's going to get the foundation. And so, okay, I take this animal trap out there, a live trap, and the tenant, she's lived there for 11 years, super cool lady, and she calls me up and says, the guy I bought the property from, we just do the transaction. It's like the day after, and he goes, hey, you got to go over to the apartment. There's a woodchuck, caught the woodchuck. And I was like, well, what do you want me to do with it? It's my first rodeo with catching animals there. He goes, you got to drown it. I was like, you got to drown it? What do you mean I drown it? He goes, that's what we do. We just take it down the river, down the road, and you just hold it underwater, and they die really fast. I was like, what? And so me, I'm like, well, it's in a metal cage. It's in a busy neighborhood, we'll call it. And I'm like, I don't want to shoot it, So I'm like, and I don't want to bring it all the way home. And I don't want to shoot the metal and it ricochet and shoot me or whatever.
Right.
So I'm like, well, maybe drowning it is the best choice. So I took it down. And I'm telling him, I called him like right after, bro, this is a terrible experience. He goes, what happened? I said, man, I took this woodchuck and it's still in the cage. I pulled down. There's people around, so I'm trying to park, and I'm like carrying this thing. It's like clawing, trying to get out, and it's just, it's like desperate trying to get out, and it's hissing at me. And so I carry this thing, and I'm scared it's gonna bite me, so I'm trying to barely hold it. I walk down to the river, and I take this cage, and I try to put it in the water. And it's not going all the way down. So his little nose is just out, like trying to get some air. And I'm trying to push it down. And I've got like a shovel, and I'm trying to push it down, his head down.
What the
Terrible.
Oh my God.
I finally get it low enough, and it's swimming around, and then finally it just stops, and then just floats away. And I'm like, I start to like tear up, like a poor little woodchuck, I can't even do anything, and had to empty it and get him out, and he float away.
No.
I called Lee right after. I was like, you won't believe what I just did. He was like, don't ever tell me another story again.
Terrible story.
Terrible
man.
story.
This little trying to like survive. He's like stuffing his head down.
His little nose is up, trying to get air.
Yo, that is the worst story.
It's the worst,
dude. I don't. That's why, dude. Wild animals are the worst. Man. I don't understand it. I got this homegirl. She was obsessed with getting chickens. You know what I mean? I guess it's like all over Pinterest and everything. So everybody wants to get these chickens, right? So she got a few. Bought a little chicken coop. Bought a few of these chickens. Made them pets. Gave them names. This is little, this is little Susie. This is Johnny. He's a rooster. And, so she's sitting here, so she gets all these, and she kind of lives out in the country before. You can tell this chick's like from the city, right? Like, there's no farm in this, right? Like, I swear to God. So she calls me crying, right? She calls me crying. I said, "What's going on?" She said, "Hawk got Susie." I said, "What, man?" She said, "I said, calm down." She said, "The hawk got it." And when I went out there, I ran out there and I tried to shoo it away, and it just had its claws into her so deep, and it's staring at me. And I got close to it, and those things are huge. You know what I mean? Like, she's freaked out, like they're big. I was like, "What'd you do?" She's like, "I went inside and got my gun." I was like, "Then you went back out there?" He was like, "Yeah. Gave it a couple warning shots." You know what I mean? I was like, "Oh, are you kidding me, man?" Of course, it's all verifiable. I watched the whole thing later on her Ring camera.
Oh my gosh,
dude, that hawk was huge, bro. Yeah. That thing was like half her size, man.
Chicken had no chance,
bro. This chicken is dead, right? So she's got like 7 of them total. You know what I mean? So that was just like Susie was like the first of 7. Yeah. So this hawk like eats on these like once a week, right? You know what I'm saying? Her friend Chelsea gives her a couple more chickens, right? So this is when I found out about this. I had no idea. I didn't know that raccoons rip the heads off of chickens. No clue. Had no idea. I guess if you have a metal fence or whatever, the chicken put his head through the fence, the raccoon will grab it, yank its head, and rip it right off on the fence. So the body just... So she comes home one day, she calls me again crying. "The chicken is dead in the middle of the yard. There's feathers everywhere, but it has no head." I'm like, "What? What are you talking about?" I'm like, "The hawk didn't come and just take the head, did it?" You know what I mean? Like, are you me right now? Like what would do that? Like, and not eat it? Like not eat it. You know what I mean? Like, I'm wilding out right now. I ended up having to look it up. Yeah, like 2 or 3 chickens have died by the fence so far. Like,
beheaded.
Yeah, and I'm just like, girl, you're probably not supposed to have this farm here.
No.
This probably isn't what you need in your life. But yeah, those wild animal stories, man, get me every time.
Man.
Like, I don't want any more problems.
I learned my lesson because same lady, same trap, same apartment. she calls me up.
The cousin woodchuck.
Right. She was like, "There's another woodchuck," and I'm like, "Oh, I'm not drowning any more woodchucks. I'm paying somebody. I'm putting a hit on this woodchuck next time." And so she calls me up. She's like, "Ray, I need you to come right now." I'm literally sitting in church, and so she called, and I text her. She says, "Oh, the trap got a raccoon," and I was like, "Oh, okay." And I said, "I'll be there in a little bit." I turned the corner. I kid you not, I'm about 4 houses down from the corner. Turn the corner, and I got LASIK. I can see pretty good, and I'm like, that's not a raccoon. It's not a raccoon at all. So I'm like already like I'm just rolling by. It's a skunk. And I'm rolling by, I look at the skunk, I look up, she's sitting on the porch, we make eye contact. I'm like, oh, I gotta stop. So I stop, run down the window, I was like, that's not a raccoon. She smiles, she's like, I know. It's like, I'm not doing it. That's all you. She's like, well, it's dead. I'm like, it's not dead. It's playing you. That thing is not, it's just waiting. It's waiting for you. And I was like, so I don't know what to tell you. I'm not doing it. I'm not drowning that thing.
Goodness, bro.
Her son, she ends up, I made a deal like $75. I paid her son to get rid of it. It didn't end well.
That's awesome. Man.
Yeah. Man. No more with the animals.
No more, man.
Yeah.
No more.
Well, man, this has been a blast.
Man, bro, more fun than what it should have been for sure.
Yeah, this is the first, but won't be the last for sure, brother.
Definitely, man. Let me know. I'm always excited, man.
And the backstory, it was I got my media guy, videographer Connor here, and we were talking about we're gonna do a run through with the podcast. I said, man, we're talking about investments. I wanted to talk about that first investment property, help people kind of understand how I'm doing it, and help other people be able to do it.
Right.
We get it all set up, and I'm sitting here, and I'm like, man, this is awkward. I'm gonna talk to myself, like I don't feel like I feel like just talking to myself in the camera and Connor behind it quietly. I'm like, this feels kind of awkward, and I was like, I wonder what my boy Lee's doing. I was like, I'm gonna see, and I hit you up, and I was like, hey, you want to do a podcast? Send you a picture. You're like, I'm on my way. So I was like, bet. So this is nothing rehearsed, all raw.
Yeah, for sure.
It's a way to do it.
I appreciate you, bro.
So fun. You know what I mean?
Good time, man.
So fun, brother.
Next time.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Thanks,
yes,
bro.
Sir. Thank you for coming. Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of the Real with Ray podcast. Please like and subscribe, share it with a friend, and give us your feedback. What did you think of the podcast? If you've got any questions, we'd love to hear from you. Reach out and make sure you tune into the next episode. Let's go.